Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull. Max Walker Williams is the founder and owner of the Walker Williams Group, which is focused mainly on real estate, but he seems to be spending more time on crypto, particularly Hedera, all the time. Thanks for coming on, Max.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much for having me, Brandon.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So, like so many others, I understand that you were first made of Hedera through the work of Mike Maloney. What caught your attention to make you so involved at this point?
So I've always been interested in investing, and because property is it's generational wealth. It's very good, a very good asset class, one of the best, if not the best. It's arguably the best. You could have a decent argument that property is one of the best asset classes, but it's very slow moving. And when Lambo is a question that's also asked in the property industry. And generally, it's generation 3 that is when Lambo. So with that in mind, every time I had a couple of a quid spare, I would look at alternative investments, which included silver and gold. And obviously, Mike Maloney plays a big part in that industry, in the silver and gold and the bullion industries. And so I kind of came across him and then came to respect him in that space because of that interest in that area. And then when he made the rules of money, I think it's 10 parts to it. It's really good. So you've got a guy I really respect. I respect his opinion, really high quality content. And so anything he says, I'm quite good at detail. I'm quite good on details. And if I hear something that piques my interest, I'll look into it. And then I have to learn how it works and to pull it apart and look at it. And another example would be that when I watched the film, The Big Short, I'm probably one of the few people who, I don't know if you've seen the scene in The Big Short, so I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but in the scene, the two young guys are at one of the big banks and they're trying to pitch. And the guy comes down to the foyer and he meets them and he basically fobs them off. And he says, look, you're not big enough. You haven't got a license, blah, blah, blah. They see a portfolio about the property market, the problem with the property market in America on a coffee table. They start flicking through it. The guy kicks them out, and then they stop the film, the documentary film, The Big Short, and they say, actually, this isn't how this happened. How this actually happened is I read about it and then they say some words that it took me, no joke, it took me a couple of days. I had to get the transcript of the film to find out what exactly they said, because I wanted to know where they saw this information that led them to earn 200 or 300 million shorting the housing market in America. Turns out what they actually say is the Grant's Interest Rate Observer. So what he mumbles in that film is the Grant's Interest Rate Observer. I am now a subscriber of that. And Mike Maloney is another example of, he said, Hedera Hashgraph, and I stopped. And I said, I want to know what this is. Because he talks about the Bitcoin and the success of this and blah, blah, blah. And then he says, and the future, of course, is going to be Hedera. And then carries on talking. So I had to stop it, pull it apart, and then here we are years later, and I'm a big investor in Hedera Hashgraph.
We actually have pretty similar stories. I got into it because of investing, all that kind of stuff. I actually saw the white paper before Mike Maloney came out with his stuff, but, that certainly piqued my interest even more. I was also into the gold and silver market at one point. Still owner of silver. It's more of a hedge against crypto than anything else, but I do think crypto is a huge part of the future.
All right, Brandon, I want to show you something. Look.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
I didn't actually know you were going to bring it up. It's just by complete coincidence we're moving safes, and so yeah. So I'm still a gold and silver bug.
I do. I've thousands of ounces of silver. I'm still there. Yeah. And being involved with the gold and silver space, you can't miss Mike Maloney. Now, there's a lot of fluff in the gold and silver commentary space, but and I kind of rolled Mike Maloney into that early on. Until I really started to pay attention to the kind of due diligence and the research that he does. As we were talking about off camera, I was in the oil industry very recently, actually. But Mike Maloney back in 2012, someplace in there, 2013, 2014, he mentioned, that the oil market was going to have this major correction. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Oil was bumping up $100 at the time as well. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's going to happen. But sure enough, a couple years later, or actually later in 2014, we had the huge crash in the oil market. Yes. And I really started to pay more attention to what he says. And there's no question that after I read the Hashgraph white paper, that once Mike started to do some commentary on it, I was certainly even more interested into what they were actually going to build with this. So Similar paths, no question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, community members can certainly be both, but from what I've seen, people usually fall into one of two categories, either builders in the Hedera network or they're investors in HBAR. How would you categorize yourself?
I think there's actually two different. I think I slightly disagree with what you said there. I think that you're right that people fall into two different categories, but they're investors or builders and investors. Mm-hmm. Because, and I know it's a semantic, but it's just because you're either a passive investor, which means that you buy HBAR, you buy whatever it may be, whichever, regardless of the project, XRP or whatever it is, Ripple, and then you sit back and you hope that the price goes up, and therefore you're an investor in the project. But if you're a builder on the project, you're also an investor on the project because you buy the I don't know anyone building on any project that isn't also an investor.
Sure, your time and everything else.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So that's semantic aside. I'm definitely a builder and an investor because the technology is undeniable. So if you are in the space that I am, which is, I've got quite a variation of businesses and quite a large portfolio, then we have stuff that we already doing that is better done on Hedera. And we are also actively building businesses because of Hedera. So Hedera came first and we went, okay, we've got this incredible technology. What can we do with it? And then obviously the NFTs and Utopian Lab, NFTLC, which is the non-fungible token London City, the largest and best, in my opinion, NFT Expo in Europe, which will be in London the 17th of September. And then we've got Utopian Lab, which is educating and facilitating some of the world's greatest companies and individual talent into NFTs, the metaverse, AR, VR, and that sort of thing. So I'm both. I'm an investor and a builder. And I did a small video about that because there's a huge difference between investors and builder investors. And the main difference is that you see, I know if you saw the video I did about why is Hedera sort of 25 pence and Ethereum is $3,000. Well, the reason is because the majority, 99.9999% of people at the moment are just investors. They're just buying lottery tickets and hoping that they win.
Sure.
But as that changes and more people become investor builders or employed by companies that are builders on certain networks, that will change because people will realize actually this utility is incredible and the tech is undeniable. Industry-wide, generally the tech is undeniable, and then specifically within that industry, Hedera stands out as one of the best project technically, mathematically and technically.
I certainly couldn't agree anymore. And you talked about some of the content you build. What made you decide to become an educator in our ecosystem?
So I was for quite a while. I like talking, as you'll shortly learn, and I genuinely like helping people. Like I like talking. I like my own opinion. I like learning too. I like learning, and so for 16 years I've been working no less than 85 hours, no more, generally speaking, than 105 hours a week for 16 years straight. And then when COVID came, for the first time ever, through I had no choice. There was nothing to do, so I was doing 45 hours a week for the first time in my adult life, and so my professional life certainly. So people had been, around me, friends and family and stuff, have been saying, well, you should definitely do a YouTube channel. People, should know about this. More property related stuff, to be fair. People should know about how to invest and why they shouldn't pay off their mortgage early, because it's counterintuitive, because a lot of it is like, a lot of people, it's the job, the school, 9 to 5, rich dad, poor dad, all that stuff. But it's still so true that like professional friends of mine are like, a friend of mine was bragging a while ago about how he paid off 10% of his residential mortgage early. And I'm like, are you nuts? Like, it's the cheapest money you'll ever have. Like, pay off that last, and if you can, borrow more and invest, and then passive income and blah blah blah. And so, for the first time ever, I had spare time, because I wouldn't have ever started had it not been for COVID. Just because a lot of people who teach, particularly on YouTube, teach because they can't do, and I mean that with respect. Like, those who can't do teach, and those who can't teach PE. Is the saying in the UK, at least. I don't know if you've got a similar one in America.
We do.
Yeah. So I was too busy doing it, which is one of my main concerns about YouTube and Twitter and all these other things. Is a lot of people giving these opinions. It's like, who are they? And some of them are really, really successful. There's a crypto boy or something, and he's got like 400,000 followers. You look into it, and he was like, I don't know, I'm making it up, but he was a geography school teacher who did a little bit of crypto on the side. And then eventually, after 5 years of being an influencer, he makes enough off talking online to quit his job. That doesn't make him a good professional investor in what he's talking about. He might have just been lucky a couple of times, or maybe he's not lucky at all. Maybe he's got no money. Like, who are these people?
Sure.
And some of them are anonymous, and people I respect and like. I don't know their real first names, like, let alone their gender, their age, where they are. So someone say, "Oh, you should definitely be buying this," and it's like, well, hang on a sec. Are you living at home? And it's important, because imagine getting like a personal trainer in the gym, and you're not allowed to see what they look like physically. Like, you're taking advice off a fatty on how to get a six-pack. It doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. If you've got a better body than the person training you, then get a better trainer. So I think that I'm trying to be as honest and as transparent as I can be. People know who I am, where I am, what I'm doing. And you can add certain weight to what I say at your discretion. You decide how much weight to add to it by my CV. And my CV, when I'm talking about money, is what I have, because it is what it is. Physically it's six-pack, or be able to run a certain distance in a certain time. But in this specific place where we are talking, it's about money and wealth. So so I started the channel, and then people seem to sort of really like the way I have an ability to understand at a kind of basic level the kind of geniuses that I've had the pleasure and privilege of meeting, like Lehman, and I'm able to understand what's being said to a certain degree, but then not just that, then turn around and explain it to people who might not be able to understand in a way that they do. And so that's kind of where I found my niche on the YouTubes.
Yeah, well, you've done a great job so far. And you also did a fantastic job interviewing Hedera Founders Manson Lehman. What struck you most about them?
That they are absolutely 100% everything you would hope they are, in as much as they are the most conscientious and sincere people, genuinely, I have ever met. And the reason I say that is because I've met people who are more sincere, but in the context of their own lives. And what I mean by that is, Manson Lehman are, technically billionaires. Not even technically, like, they own enough HBAR and HBAR's product. It doesn't matter what it is today. They are billionaires, and they don't need to ever work again. And they do. They don't have to be so emotionally intelligent about everything, every decision they make. And one of the things that Lehman says when he's referring to somebody famous, and I don't want to do him a disservice and say who, but everyone knows who, and they knew who in the interview. And he says, if you have the power to change the price of something with one tweet, you have the responsibility not to. And so you never have to worry about them tweeting anything that could damage anything, and particularly with Lehman specifically, he just cares about the maths. That's all he cares about. He, genuinely, there's some rumors going around, some FUD as we get bigger as a project. People saying, he's dumping the price and he's doing this and that and the other. Genuinely, if I'm I don't he has nothing in his office. He's got a treadmill that he walks on. He's got his computer, a really good computer, and that is it. And I don't mean this disrespectfully. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying, his clothes are from Walmart. The price, the fit is less important than to get the cheapest price. If the trousers are slightly too big, but the half price, I'll have them. He is the most unmaterialistic person you could ever meet. And so, to suggest, for anyone to suggest that there's any sort of malice or intended or otherwise, because they're too intelligent, even for unintended malice, any sort of malice or financial sort of motivator, it's just a nonsense.
I think you're completely right. And I think he drives a Toyota Corolla or something along those lines.
Yeah, and he doesn't even own his own home. He lives in a rented apartment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not his
He's not
focus.
Living in a mega mansion. He lives in a 3-bed flat that he rents. He drives like you said, I don't know, a Toyota or something. It's just not of interest. It doesn't even comprehend. Yeah, no question about it. I agree. We hear all the time that this is a marathon, not a sprint, and even those of us who know it's a marathon, we're still trying to run a 200, and but they really are. They're running a marathon. They want to build a 100-year company. They're focused on the long game. We hear about
Mance and his work with the strategic defense and all that kind of stuff, running the war games, they are strategizing all the time. They know exactly what they're doing, in my opinion. And you're right. I don't think they would do anything that malicious, certainly with the price or anything along those lines.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I recently interviewed Jordan Freed, and he had some pretty glowing things to say about you. Have you had any interaction with Jordan?
I have, yes. We had a chat. I'm smiling because before this call, I was just in the middle of booking some flights. So I'm
Puerto Rico.
Well, Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm going to go and meet. Hopefully, I don't know yet. I just need to confirm quickly. I'm in the middle of doing it, and then I've got to book flights. So I'm dealing with these people. We had a chat. Got on great, actually. I think we'd allocated half an hour, and I think we overrun by about an hour on the half hour. So because. I like to talk, and he's polite enough to listen. So it went on for a lot longer than planned. But we got on. I knew we'd get on well because of what I thought we'd get on well because of what I know about him and what I've seen of him. But we got on really well, and I'm glad to say, and just an impressive person. It's very, very rare that I'm with somebody and I think you might be better at what you do than I am at what I do. That's happened less than a handful of times in my life, sure. And Jordan's one of them. So that excites and scares me at the same time because it's always daunting when you meet somebody and you think, you might be better at what you do. So it's going to be interesting to meet him. He's agreed to an interview, so I'm going to be interviewing him in person, hopefully later this year. Well, definitely later this year.
Good stuff. Well, when you can get people like that together collaborating, you're going to see some fireworks. That's for sure. Yeah.
Because I won't let him get off lightly. I don't mind asking the tough questions. So I'll be asking him some stuff that I think will actually do him good in the Hedera community, but stuff that needs to be asked that some people might be a bit timid to ask or whatever.
Sure. I got you. So like you mentioned, you're building on the network. Can you give us any more information about your project?
I can, yeah. So Utopian Lab, utopianlab.com, fantastic company, great group of guys. I was very lucky enough that before NFTs and before really cryptographic technology was a thing, Bitcoin was a thing, but like I knew early days, I was just looking at it, but it wasn't what people were claiming. There was a disconnect between this is going to be the future of money, this is going to be the future of technology and stuff. And I'm looking at that going, I don't get it. Like, how is this? It's not even finality. How is this going to solve anything? And time has proven that was my questions were correct. But I was fortunate enough through other businesses, just through osmosis, basically, and just being alive, that I'd met some fantastic, some of the world's best digital designers, software guys, and developers, coders. And so I contacted them when NFTs became a thing and Hedera, and it all sort of fell into line. And I reached out to some of the guys and kind of literally just rung the first sort of my number one go-to guy, and he said yes, and then went down the list. And there's 5 that I really, really wanted, and I got all 5. I'm happy to say. So 6 of us, myself and the 5 guys, and we're building this business with 2 goals. One sort of which is 90% of the goal and 10% of the goal. And the first one is that our goal is to help companies, like I said, companies. Create NFTs, large companies and people to have big, large talent to create NFTs and metaverse stuff and AR and VR. And then the other 10% is to help the Hedera network grow and things. And the reason that's only 10% of the goal is because it'll happen anyway through osmosis. Like if I said to you, right, we've got Johnny Depp, I've secured Johnny Depp as a client. We're going to be creating NFTs with him on a second series, and we're going to be doing it on Hedera. Well, then it's going to help Hedera, like, anyone who's involved with Hedera, anyone who's not involved with Hedera is going to be like, what's Hedera? Sure. And anyone who's already there is going to be like, well, wow, this is fantastic. So that's not necessarily our goal, but we were aware that it will, through osmosis, it will help the thing, which is something that we want to see happen. We're actively trying to help the network because we believe in the tech, because it is what it is. It's the best. So
clearly superior.
But that's kind of what we're doing. And we've secured 3 so far, like genuinely done deal. We've secured 3 really, I think, impressive brands. And I was so close, but I really honestly can't talk about them quite yet because they'd be really upset if I did.
Well, how hypothetical is that Johnny Depp thing? Is that
not confirmed? twice removed. So what I mean by that is we are working with somebody who works with somebody who works with him. So our guy, Johnny Depp. So there is so it's not impossible, but it's nowhere near confirmed.
I gotcha. Well, we certainly wish you the best of luck. If anybody is successful in our ecosystem, we all win. So good stuff.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. We should be rooting for everybody.
Yeah.
So what do you think needs the most attention in the Hedera ecosystem right now?
In what sense?
So, I mean, we see there's been some issues recently with not having secondary markets for our HTS tokens. You can talk about marketing. You can talk about tokenomics, things along those lines.
Okay. So I think that there's a frustrating answer, which is there's a bit of a disconnect between what people expect from, and this again comes back to like the investor and the builder investor. Like I am building on the platform, and the price of HBAR itself is really irrelevant. I don't check the price on the regular. I own a lot of HBAR, but I don't check the price regular. And that's not because of where I am financially in life. It's because I know it'll happen. So I'm just getting on with life, and that's fine. And I'm building on it. But there's a lot of people, because the industry is so early, there's a lot of people. And that's why we have this kind of like fear and this frustration is the big one. Like even people like who are really good on Twitter and really dedicated and get it or think they get it are getting frustrated because HBAR is not moving in price. But it's not that it's the wrong product. If like you need to go to the casino, and you need to go to, like when I say casino, I mean like the meme coins and stuff, and have a bit of a play around there. But consider Hedera like a 20-year investment, and then you won't be disappointed. Buy some, hold it, put it away safe. And then if you want to dabble and play and make, a Lambo in 3 weeks, then go all in on a meme coin, and fingers crossed, and hopefully it moves. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. There's nothing wrong at all with that. Great, have at it, go nuts. But to expect to buy Hedera and go, I trust Max, or I trust Brandon, or whoever, and they say this tech is great, or I've seen the tech for myself and I understand how it works, and I think it's great. So therefore, the price should triple in a week. But that isn't what this is. This is commercial. This is far bigger than that. And so I think it's a very, very safe bet, but it's a long bet. And there's a disconnect between what people expect from a coin. And they're going, well, I don't understand because everything else is mooning around me, and this project is moving. But that isn't true. If you look at the real stuff, like look at the price of Ripple and other projects that aren't. And I actually done a video called about cryptocurrency, about the future of cryptocurrency, and I talk about the price a little bit. And actually, if you look, it took some coins like 7 years to go from nothing to $3,000. But in those 7 years, there were periods of like 3.5 years where the price fluctuated by like 3%. So for 2 years on some of them, I talk about it in the video, for 2 years, the price fluctuates by a couple of percent for 2 years. But people look at it in hindsight and go, it was 30 cents. It's now $5,000. Why isn't HBAR doing the same?
Sure.
And then people go, well, it's because there's 50 billion coins, or because Jordan's leaving removed HBAR from his thing, or because and it's all nonsense. It's not. It's just that we haven't had long enough yet, and you're in the forest, so you can't see the woods. And so there's a bit of a disconnect that I would like to sort of try and help solve. Like if you are looking and you're not interested in anything else and you just want to double your money in a week, please, for your own sake, not for our sake, but for your own sake, cash out and go and buy a punt. Go and buy a meme coin, and fingers crossed, and good luck to you. I hope you make a lot of money.
Oh, that's not going to happen.
I'd like to solve that disconnect, just to help the people who are complaining as much as anyone, because they're not going to be satisfied because they take a short-term view on a long-term project is number one. And number two, I think that, and I think it's going to change quite quickly, but Hedera could have done a better job. Just being completely honest, Hedera could have done a better job at advertising earlier on. They could have been doing what they're doing now years ago. Sure. And because they've done the hard bit, so they've done they've got the solid tech. Like no one. I don't think anyone is going, by the way, the tech is shit. It's like rubbish. No one is saying the tech is rubbish. I don't even think that even the biggest naysayers are saying tech is rubbish. I don't think. It's just that more people need to know about it, because everybody who hears about it jumps on or invests or does something. I've met anyone who's looked at it and gone, wow, and then just walked away. So I think just more people need to know about it, for the environment as well as our wallets and so on. But that will change, and that is changing. I actually think that it was the one that they're kind of like one. I think they're one. If they were top trump card, Hedera, they would be like 10, 10, 10, 4. And the 4 would be like PR. And I actually think, truth be told, I don't know this. I'm surmising. I'm guessing. So please don't quote me on this, but I'm guessing. I think that if Lehman and Mance, when they first founded, if they had the option of not being business to customer, i.e. anyone can build on the platform, they had just like a solution, like a white label solution for Microsoft and Google. So Microsoft bring them up and go, we want to be in this space, give us a thing. We're not going to call it Hedera. No one will ever hear the name Hedera. We're going to call it Microsoft 1. We're going to call it Google 2. I think they would have gone down that road. Like they're not, because it's scale without all of the, small, and I'm not saying they're not important, but smaller projects and NFT little project and all that kind of stuff. It's just like, and when you take that mentality and then you do the opposite, you don't go corporate, you go everyone, corporate and thing, you have to deal with the little guys coming in the shop too and buying one item. Well, if you're a guy who buys 10,000 iPhones and sells them without ever seeing them and makes £1 on each cell phone, it's hard when you also have customers coming in and complaining about the one iPhone that they bought off you or whatever, So I'm probably not explaining it properly, but
no, you're good.
Yeah, it's a different mindset, and there's a transition period from I buy wholesale and sell wholesale. I make small margin, massive turnover, and those are kind of guys I know. I've got friends who do that, and they are not built mentally to deal with Joe Public. And then there are guys who are very good at selling cups of coffee too, and they buy lots of coffee beans in Starbucks and they sell lots of cups of coffee, and they deal with the public, including slipping in the shop and suing them for breaking their back and all the other bits and bobs that come with dealing with old people dying in the shop or whatever. So, and people getting locked and stuck in the toilets and all that headache. And I do both, so I get it, because I do stuff on an investment level that is business to business, high sort of tier stuff, and I also have a chain of hotels that check a lot of people in, all different barristers, families, young people, old people, all at once and everything, and all their opinions and things that come with it. So I do both, and I know that it's a hard transition to go from one to the other, but that's what Hedera is doing, and it's getting there. It's starting to move into engaging with Joe Public and helping people and the foundation, all that stuff, and it's a painful transition that we're all witnessing, and that's what we're actually witnessing. We're witnessing a corporate company moving into from a B2B only to a B2C, and they're doing a good job. Believe it or not, it's a very hard thing to do.
I think another thing you have to consider when it comes to the HBAR market is Hedera and the HBAR Foundation are actually building, right? So a lot of platforms can use their tokens to incentivize people to buy their tokens. And that's all they do. They aren't actually building the ecosystem with value add propositions like Hedera is and the HBAR Foundation is. Of course, it takes to actually build real things. It takes capital, right? And that's what they're using their HBAR treasuries for. Go ahead.
So something that I'll tell you what will happen. I think will happen. Okay. I think there's going to be, well, I don't think I know, because what goes up has to come down, and it's healthy. It's scary, but if you're prepared and watch my videos, then you'll be prepared. And so it can be an opportunity. But there will be a 2008 thing again, crash worldwide. And what will happen is people will be tested, because no one's been tested properly yet. So you've got people right now who earn a decent wage, they've got a spouse that earns a decent wage, and they have disposable income. And they take that disposable income and they're in the crypto space and they say, I'm going to put £100 I'm in the casino, I'm going to put £100 on doggy woggy woof coin. Okay, so they put the £100 on the coin because they don't need the £100. So they do it and they know that they could lose all their money. But they're doing that, not just one man or lady, there's tens or hundreds of thousands of people doing that. But when the crash happens and they need that money, the projects that don't have any utility will fall away, and it'll happen more slowly than it does with companies. And the reason that'll happen is because when you buy stock in Tesla, The only relationship you have is binary, which is I buy the stock, I lend you my money, you pay me a return, that is it. Whereas with these tribal kind of coins, like people actually, there aren't many people who call themselves Bob Microsoft or Dave Google on Twitter, but people do call themselves Bob XRP. Because there's like, it's okay to do that. It's cool. These things are cool. And these aren't just brands, they're lifestyles. So what that means is people will fight for longer for their brand, for their lifestyle, for their name. They like, some people like even put their project's name, their favorite project's name before their own name. So it's like XRP Bob, right? Yeah. Okay, and what other company would you do that for? Like, it's crazy, isn't it? Like Max General Motors, like, you know, or it's crazy. So people do that, and what that means is they're willing to suffer longer than old market sort of shareholders are willing to. If you don't perform, we will pull our money out of your stock. If I need the money desperate, I will pull the money out of your stock. So it will take longer to happen, but it will happen. There will be a flood, and the flood will wash away all of the nonsense. And the only ones left. There will be nonsense ones that pop up again, of course, and that's fine, and they have their place. But ones like Hedera will be the ones that are left, the ones that float, the Noah's Arks, if you like, the boats that have real utility and purpose. They are the ones that will be left. And that's how this ends, by the way. That's how this gets sorted, is that all this money at the moment is sloshing around with people just chucking money at projects and backing them and hoping for this when moon. And then there'll be a flood. People will be like, do I keep my money in Shiba or do I pay my mortgage?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. But see, whereas Utopian Lab won't have that conversation, because without that network, the business doesn't exist. So we won't be pulling. Do you see what I mean? So, sure. But if I haven't got a project on, I'm picking on Shiba, I'm just picked a name at random. I own quite a lot of Shiba. If I don't have anything built on Shiba, so all I have is some money invested in it, and I need that money, so I'm going to sell it. So the ones with, that's why, by the way, utility will survive. So the ones with utility will survive.
I actually had a few more questions for you, but we have covered pretty much everything that I was going to discuss. Max, this has been great. Do you have anything else you'd like to pass on before we let you go?
No, just thank you ever so much. I hope everyone's well in the community. Please don't be frustrated. As I've said, if you want to have some fun, do it on another project. And that's it, really. And thank you ever so much for your time.
Yeah, I appreciate your time as well. Is there anything as far as getting involved with your projects that you'd like to pass on?
Yeah, we've got the, thank you very much for asking. We've got the Walker & Williams NFT partnership program. And I really think that, again, for the reasons that I said earlier about my CV and people knowing who I am and so on and so forth, that also applies to NFT projects. So there are some really good ones, but who are the people behind them? And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, but would you buy anything else, or would you invest in somebody that you're not sure? Like, have they got a criminal record? How do they vote? Does that matter to you? Because if it does, then, whereas with my project, it's open and we have real, again, utility. So you can come and meet me in real life if you own one of the NFTs. We've got NFTLC and a load of other utilities that I won't bore you with here. But so have a look at the project if you haven't already with the NFT Walker & Williams Partnership Program, which you can see at maxwalkerwilliams.co.uk.
All right. Sounds good. Max, again, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thanks so much. Take care.